Much more the mental. The amount of kind of exotic pressures and how that can change from week to week depending on the defense you're playing. It's really challenging for a guy who maybe some of these guys came from a system where they're going fast, they're getting pretty clean looks. It's hard to get into all this type of stuff, and these defensive coordinators know how to scheme you. They know how to put pressure on your protections as well as get the back matched up. Sometimes in unfavorable matchups, but they can learn the physical part, and they have the ability to do that if they use technique. But definitely the mental part. There's a lot of different calls that are being made, and having to process that really quickly is tough.
Are you focused on Thursday? Is it mostly player evaluation, or is it how the group collectively looks now?
I think we'd like to see a clean operation from the group, particularly starting with the quarterbacks, getting in and out of the huddle, just the whole group in general. But it's definitely more of an evaluation process. You're playing with, unfortunately, some guys aren't going to make the football team. You hope that all these guys make it somewhere in the NFL, but we can only keep so many. But there's going to be some plays that don't look quite so good, but hopefully we can see some guys rebound the next play and kind of make up for it and show us that they're resilient that way after they make a mistake. I think it's the individual. You see some teams that have a real philosophy in the draft of, especially early in the draft, where we only take guys from big schools that have played in big games in front of big crowds. But then you see guys from small schools who come to the NFL and they become stars right away. So it's just kind of each individual guy. We'll see how they respond. It's certainly their first NFL experience, these rookies. So I'm sure there'll be a little nerves, but they'll realize once they get out there, it's just football.
Wes, what have you seen from Josh Oliver and just the way that he's fit in? And I guess how do you balance doing a lot of the 11 personnel that you guys have always done with now mixing in someone who can be a weapon like that?
I think you have a guy like Josh, and you have to use him. His physical ability, teams generally kind of think they have a win there, particularly these 3-4 teams with these big outside backers, or if you're lining up a defensive end over a tight end all the time, you feel like, okay, we won there, now what's the other problems in the offense? And that's really not the case with Josh. He's big, he's strong, he's physical, he's athletic, and then he's shown that in the pass game he's got really good hands, and that's going all the way back from college. And he's super long, so his catch radius is really big.
It seems like he's making a good catch every day out here.
Yeah, when he came out from San Jose, they didn't really use him as a blocker. I remember grading him, and it was kind of like, yeah, he's big, he's long, he can run. I think he ran the 4.5s, and you said, but he was probably about 250 pounds at that time. And you said, wow, he's got some talent, but we're going to have to teach him how to block, teach him how to go in line. I didn't know that he'd end up being over 270 pounds, but he's really, worked hard. He loves football. He's a team guy. He's been a great pleasure to have. I think just the operation is number one. It's hard we get the play clocks out here and we try to push these guys and try to let them feel kind of how fast it gets in and out, how fast the play calls come. We have some move the ball periods. We have some more today where he's going to be able to feel that a little bit. But you want to just get in and out of the huddle. You don't have time to walk up and just kind of get a view, big picture view. You got to get things going. You got to get the operation going. You got to lead the team, run the offense. And part of that is the operation, and the other part is just executing one play at a time. There's going to be bad plays in there, but can he bounce back and show us that, it doesn't faze him?
Coach Markov just announced the bud patches and other ways the team plans to honor Bud Grams. curious as to your thoughts of your time with Coach Grant. You know, if you get that extra, having grown up around the NFL.
Well, he's a legend. I did grow up around the NFL, and I was always watching NFL films, and I was well aware of Coach Grant, and Coach Grant and my grandfather actually knew each other as well, coached against each other, and had a friendship as well. So to be able to actually get to meet him and talk and hear some of those stories, we certainly lost a legend, but I'm glad we're going to honor him with that patch.
The younger running back room, how much does it kind of add having a veteran fullback like C.J. Ham to kind of help those guys?
C.J. Ham, not only a veteran fullback, but one of the leaders of our team, one of the most consistent, unselfish, along with being talented. You really can't put a value on what he means to this team. Just when his name comes up guys are cheering across the team because he kind of touches all groups with the special teams that he's been involved in for a long time. And then, of course, what he does for us on offense. He's a special human on top of being a really good football player. We're lucky to have him. I think his life, he went about the right way, and that carried over to coaching. I mean, everyone who met the guy and spoke to the guy and had a chance to be around him, everything is positive about what kind of man he was. And I just think that rubs off if you're genuine with players. If you don't try to be someone else. I'm sure he worked for some guys that were totally different, especially at that time, kicking them in the butt and grabbing them by the face mask. But you just got to be yourself, and obviously the talent and work ethic that he had on top of it. But, the person shows up first to these guys. And if they trust you and they care about you as a person, then they'll usually work for you.
You and Kevin had Brandon Powell back for a year in LA. How did that familiarity maybe make it more, you could envision what kind of role you'd like to have him in on this team?
Well, we knew what kind of we got him mid-season in LA and really his role was as our punt returner. But we did get to know him personally and see him work on the football field. So we knew what we were getting from those aspects, and he's a extremely hard worker. He's tough. He's a former running back in his history, not in the league, but he was a running back. You can see the toughness, not the biggest guy, but some of the run stuff where he's got to go down and dig out safeties. Maybe not the best scripted play yesterday, but he was trying to down block on a crack scheme on Davenport. But he battled. I mean, he battled and battled and battled. And then he's making plays in the pass game. He's extremely quick. You can see the return ability showing up in the receiving arena as well. So he's had a really good camp, and we're happy. We're happy with him thus far.
Last couple for Coach.
Just how fast he's been able to absorb and learn the offense. He made a few mistakes, and he'll continue to make a mistake here or there, but he doesn't make the same mistake twice. He's a real pro. Not all rookies kind of have that steady demeanor about themselves. He wants to be great, and he's showing it more and more the more reps he gets that he can be a really good player.
It's good on routes too. Went so far as the routes, and it looks like he runs pretty crisp routes for his age.
He's very smooth, knows how to separate, knows how to work edges on guys. He's never running right down the middle of guys, and he can cut on a dime. So it's pretty exciting. really we see Blake as a versatile player. You know, if you need some guys like that on your team, and obviously he played some left tackle last year, and he's gotten a lot of reps at left guard now, and he's played right tackle as well already in this camp. So, you know, when you have a guy like that, where you got to be, if you're not working with that first group, you have to have something to you. You got to be a guard center, or you got to be a guard tackle. And he's proven that he can go in games and function at all those spots, and not only function but play well. We have not this year. Center's kind of a different animal, but he's certainly smart enough and talented enough to be able to be in there.
Thanks, everybody.
Thanks. Appreciate it.